What would you do if you were thrown into an arena with a roaring crowd, facing a lion with nothing but a spear? For gladiators in ancient Rome, this was reality. A life of blood, sweat, and survival. But behind the glamour of the Colosseum lies a darker story of exploitation, propaganda, and unimaginable cruelty. Gladiators weren't just warriors. They were pawns in a deadly game of power and spectacle. And while their battles entertained the masses, their lives were often short, brutal, and tragic. Gladiator games weren't just entertainment. They were a tool of power, a spectacle of violence, and a symbol of Rome's dominance. These events captivated millions for centuries, blending strategy, brutality, and even wild animals in unfair matchups that thrilled the masses. But what was life really like for these warriors? And why did the Romans crave such violent displays? Today, we're peeling back the layers of myth to uncover the shocking truths about ancient Rome's bloodiest obsession. The origins of gladiator games are as grim as the contests themselves. They began as solemn rituals tied to death. In 264 BC, Decimus Junius Brutus Sceva held the first recorded gladiatorial contest to honor his father's passing. These early games were part of funeral rites, where human sacrifices were seen as offerings to appease the spirits of the dead. The Romans borrowed this tradition from the Etruscans, who believed that bloodshed at funerals helped guide the deceased to the afterlife. Over time, what started as private rituals evolved into public spectacles. By the late Republic, these games had become tools for political gain, an opportunity for ambitious politicians to win favor with the people by putting on lavish displays of combat. But who were these gladiators? Contrary to popular belief, they weren't all enslaved people or criminals condemned to die, though many were. Prisoners of war from Rome's conquests made up a significant portion of the ranks. Captured Gauls, Thracians, and other defeated peoples were forced into the arena as a reminder of Rome's dominance over its enemies. However, some gladiators were free men, and even women, who volunteered for a chance at fame and fortune. This might seem surprising, but for some Romans living in poverty or obscurity, becoming a gladiator offered an opportunity to rise above their station. Life as a gladiator was harsh and unforgiving. They trained at specialized schools called ludi, where they lived under strict discipline. Their daily routines revolved around brutal physical training, designed to turn them into efficient killing machines. Novices practiced with wooden weapons until they mastered their techniques. Every move was choreographed like a deadly dance. Gladiators needed not only skill, but also showmanship to survive in the arena and win over the crowd. Their diet was surprisingly strategic, heavy on barley and beans to build muscle mass and provide energy for combat. This earned them the nickname Barley Men. But while they were fed well enough to keep them strong for battle, their lives were far from luxurious. They lived in barracks under constant supervision and could be punished severely for disobedience. The Colosseum wasn't just an amphitheater, it was a stage for life and death drama on an unprecedented scale. Built in 80 AD under Emperor Vespasian and completed by his son Titus, it could hold up to 50,000 spectators. The games began with grand processions featuring trumpets, banners, and parades of gladiators marching into the arena. The morning events often included animal hunts, where men armed with spears faced lions, elephants, leopards, even crocodiles imported from Egypt. By midday came one of the most gruesome spectacles: executions. Condemned criminals were thrown into the arena unarmed to face wild beasts or forced to reenact mythological scenes that ended in their deaths. For example, being burned alive like Hercules or devoured by lions like Orpheus. But it was in the afternoon that gladiators took center stage. Matchups were carefully planned for maximum excitement. Lightly armed retieri, wielding nets and tridents, faced heavily armored secutoras. Mounted fighters battled foot soldiers. Even chariot races ended in violent clashes. These contests weren't just random fights. They were designed to showcase different fighting styles and strategies. Despite popular depictions of constant slaughter in movies like Gladiator, not all matches ended in death. Gladiators were expensive investments for their owners, often wealthy Lanistae who ran training schools, and it wasn't practical to lose them unnecessarily. Many fights ended with one gladiator surrendering by raising a finger, missio, leaving their fate in the hands of the crowd or the presiding official. Still, when death did come calling, and it often did, it was swift and brutal. A defeated gladiator who failed to win mercy would be struck down by his opponent or executed by an attendant dressed as Charon, the ferryman of Hades. Gladiator games weren't just entertainment, they were political theater on an epic scale. Emperors used them as tools to display their wealth and power while keeping citizens distracted with bread and circuses. The games reinforced social hierarchy. Senators sat close to the action in prime seats. Ordinary Romans watched from higher up. Women were relegated to distant sections unless they held elite status. These spectacles also served as propaganda for Rome's dominance over nature and its enemies. Exotic animals imported from across the empire symbolized Rome's ability to conquer even the wildest corners of the world, though often at great cost in both lives and resources. Some gladiators became legends whose stories still resonate today. Spartacus is perhaps the most famous, a Thracian warrior who escaped from his training school and led a massive rebellion against Rome that shook the Republic to its core before being defeated by Crassus's legions. Then there was Flamma, a Syrian-born gladiator who fought 34 battles and refused freedom 4 times because he loved life in the arena. Even emperors got caught up in gladiatorial mania, none more so than Commodus, who fancied himself a great warrior and fought hundreds of staged battles, often against defenseless opponents, while dressed as Hercules. But perhaps one of Rome's most extravagant displays involved wild animals imported from conquered lands. Under Emperor Trajan's reign alone, during his victory celebrations over Dacia, modern-day Romania, over 11,000 animals were slaughtered, a staggering display of cruelty that shocked even Roman audiences. As Christianity spread through Rome during late antiquity, attitudes toward violence began shifting dramatically. Gladiatorial contests came under increasing criticism from Christian leaders who viewed them as barbaric relics, incompatible with their faith's teachings on compassion and forgiveness. In 325 AD, Emperor Constantine officially banned gladiatorial contests, but they didn't disappear overnight. Smaller-scale events continued sporadically until well into late antiquity before fading entirely by 404 AD, after Emperor Honorius outlawed them completely, following public outrage over a monk being killed while protesting at one such event. The legacy left behind by these bloody spectacles is undeniable. From our fascination with combat sports today, think MMA or professional wrestling, right down through pop culture depictions like Ridley Scott's Gladiator. Gladiators remain enduring symbols not only courage, but also humanity's darker impulses toward violence, spectacle alike. And perhaps that's why their stories continue to captivate us millennia later. If you enjoyed this deep dive into ancient Rome's bloodiest tradition, hit that like button and subscribe. Let us know in the comments which part shocked you the most and what topic you'd love to explore next.